Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Comically podcast. Thank you for joining us for episode number 37. Today, Angela and I are going to be talking about Reservation Dogs Season 2. This is I guess it's broadly categorized as a comedy, but I think it's much more complicated than that. But this is a comedy, quote unquote, that you can find on FX on Hulu. It is there was a season 1. We did not do an episode about season 1, but I really recommend you watch season 1. I would also really recommend you watch season 2. Maybe you can't really spoil this show, right? You can listen to our episode. I hope we can convince you to watch season 2 if you haven't watched it. If you have watched season 2, I hope you enjoy our episode and can respond to or connect with the excitement that we have when we're talking about this show. I think Reservation Dogs is kind of unlike anything else that's on TV, or there's very few things like it, not just in terms of its quality, but like what it can be episode to episode and how it thinks about people and communities. And it is, this show is amazing. You're going to hear us both kind of talk about the ways that this show blew us away this season. So I don't really want to say too much more. Again, you can't really like spoil it, but it is a thing. Like I've said this before when we watched it, like I think everyone should watch this show. I think it's so good. I hope if you haven't seen it, we can convince you to give it a try. If you have, I hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did, and that you think we did an okay job talking about it, because we really tried our best and try to, promote and kind of sing the praises of the show, because it's really fantastic. But yeah, I'm going to stop rambling. Please go watch Reservation Dogs if you haven't seen it. Please listen to this episode. Thank you for being here, and you're going to hear our conversation right after this.
Are we recording?
Yeah, we're recording. We're going. Okay. This will just be in there.
Cool.
Well, I mean, we can kind of start there because do you care, like, in terms of plot, right? When you're watching an episode, like, what do you care about? Like, do you care about like their progress towards getting to California, or like what are you watching for? Like, what's the thing that is like, I love this show because what?
Definitely not. Okay, so maybe I don't care about the plot. I liked, like, my favorite episode from this season was
Decolonization, yeah.
No, it's called something different.
Oh, is it?
It's called Decolonization.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I just thought it was, I didn't look close enough. Okay.
I like that one because they're all like together. They're not like yet again, but like I like the ones. I like that one because they were all together. But I also I also really liked Mabel, even though they were not in it. I also really liked Stay Gold Cheesy Boy and the Roofied one with Bear. So it's like I like the ones where it's like them, because that's sort of how it was last season 2, where there'd be some where they would just like be and focus on one of the people. So I guess I like it when they're characters that I care about. Has like
the people you want to see on screen, has that expanded beyond the core of like Cheese, Willie, Jack, Alora, and Bear, or is those still your main, like that's really what you want to see, or is there other people now that you're like,
they're my main people? I like the one where all the mom teas went to that thing. Also really liked White Steve in this group. That was fun.
We will talk a little bit about White Steve. Yeah, I got some thoughts about White. I like what they do with him this episode, or this season for sure. Okay, why don't you? I'm just looking at the list of the episodes and the description for Decolonization, which is episode 6. You kind of get it. I didn't. The description is pretty blatant, but it's just 2 influencers attempt to bring the younger generation together. And it's, you get the sense that that's kind of what they are, but I was like, I don't know if they're supposed to be like more, but the description is like, nope, that's just what they are. They have their own ends in mind, I guess, a little bit. But why don't you just sort of can you sort of set up what happened, what Reservation Dogs is, what happened season 1, and then like what kind of where we are at the beginning of season 2?
Okay, so like basically everything that people should already know if they clicked on this episode.
How would you describe this show to someone? I was thinking about this. Like,
Indigenous American teen comedy drama series created by.
Where are you reading this from?
You scroll the Wikipedia page.
What does Wikipedia say? We haven't done that in a while. What does Wikipedia say?
Reservation Dogs is an indigenous American teen comedy drama television series created by Sterling Harjo and Taika Waititi for FX production. It is a notable first in that it features all indigenous writers and directors, mostly entirely indigenous North American cast and production team. The series follows the lives of 4 indigenous teenagers in rural Oklahoma as they spend their days committing crime and fighting it. After the death of their friend Daniel 1 year prior to the events of the series, the gang wrestles with a desire to move to California the way that Daniel dreamed of doing. First, they need to tie up loose ends in their community and make preparations to leave. In season 2, the Res Dogs, that's called, are still experiencing grief over the loss of their friend, now compounded by the foursome being broken apart and scattered and missing each other. The California dream does not turn out the way they expected, resulting in more feelings of disappointment and abandonment. While they cope using humor, they also face increasingly more adult challenge, financial and family responsibilities arise as they try.
Did you laugh at all watching this season? I feel like I laughed like, I'm not saying that in a bad way, but like I feel like I didn't.
Not as much. I mean, I think I laughed the most in decolonization.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. I was like, I don't know how I would, someone who wasn't inclined to like watch this, I don't know how I would like tell them like, oh, this is something you really need to watch, just because like there isn't a lot of plot, right? Like vaguely there, or like they have a goal of trying to get to California, but like most of the episodes aren't really about that. They're like growing up, but like it's so much more complicated than that. I don't know how I would pitch this to someone, right? Because it's like,
I've had to pitch it to people.
Oh, what have you said?
Because in the week of the semester, you know, all those stupid questions.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are like, what TV shows or movies? So I'd say this, and I just said it's like a TV show about like indigenous American teens, and like, so it's sort of like the coming of age, but like because it's like specific to Americans, it's like a little bit different. But and it's funny, but also it's not. I don't think anyone got it.
Did you think anyone went and took your recommendation and watched it?
A lot of people were like, oh, I heard of that. I've been meaning to watch it. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. Because I think even when you say like, oh, Taika Waititi's involved, right? You kind of expect a certain quirky, he's done, I guess the thing he's really well known for is What We Do in the Shadows, right? Which is like this kind of fourth wall breaking comedy that's like very weird and has a very specific sense of humor. And like, so you kind of say that he's involved with this, or even if they've seen the 2 most recent Thor movies, right? Where like everyone's super smart and sharp in what they say. And it's kind of jokes all the time, right? Thor is he's Thor, but he's also really funny. And so I think you say like, oh, Taika Waititi's involved in it. I don't know. It's not like the other things that he's made. So even like I would, if I was going to pitch it to someone, like I wouldn't maybe bring that up because it would maybe bring a certain expectation. But I think even in your description is like, this show can kind of just like be whatever it needs to be or whatever it wants to be, because like it has such a perfect, like it knows who its characters are so perfectly, right? It has like who they are, their emotions, like so like it's so tuned into that, like that any episode can kind of, they know how to transition right from one super serious episode to the next, right? Like, or like the mom episode to the next episode where, right? I think the mom episode and then it's decolonization, right? Because I think his sort of like punishment for having to go
for the is
because he threw a party when his mom was away, right? Like it has all of that sort of like dialed in and can be anything it wants from like one episode to the next. And like, yeah, I don't know, it's kind of amazing. Did you watch it all? You were watching them week by week as they came out.
Yeah.
How did you find that? Because when I was watching, I was like, I sort of watched it yesterday and today. So I watched it in like 2 big chunks and I'm kind of happy. Like it would have been nice to see it week to week, but I also would have like, it's nice to sort of see, oh, that's right, Bear threw this party with his mom and then like this next thing happens, right? Because there is a little bit of like continuity, right? Even in terms of like, oh, Alora's grandmother passes away and then, you know, that sort of doesn't go away throughout the rest of the season. I was like, I don't know if I would have been able to follow some of the like emotional through lines as well. How did you find that watching it week to week?
I liked it. one just because I think it's more my brand and in my nature to just like binge watch things. And I was watching this not doing that, and I think that actually was like helpful with school and everything, because or else I would have just dropped like a good 4 hours on like a school night to watch it.
Yeah.
I would say like I don't know, because it's like I think that for most of the episodes it was like I wasn't like dying to watch the next one. I was more just like, that was a really good episode, and I'll just like wait for the next one to come out. I think I'm specifically thinking about I think it was decolonization, where like the end part where like Alora is like in the apartment or her house all by herself, and remember like sort of like the way that they would end kind of, and that one sticks out to me in particular, where just like it was kind of nice. That's just like, yes, that's the end. You know? So I feel like I had more time to like appreciate it rather than just being like, okay, next episode.
Because that one ends with her sort of having a flashback to see episode 4, right? Because I think she hears the chanting as her grandma's passing away, right? So like,
yeah.
So you're saying you were able to like still follow that kind of stuff that they do sort of, okay. But it like each episode is absolutely its own contained thing for sure. Yeah. I don't know. Where do you want to start? Do you want to kind of like just go through our 4 main characters and like what were some of our favorite moments from each of them? Or do you want to go like into episode by episode, or how do you want to kind of
characters?
Okay. Who do you want to start with?
Bear.
So Bear is, at least for the beginning, right? I think episode 3, it takes a turn because that's the roofing episode, but like he's basically just depressed, like, right? I don't know what they told him. Did they tell him, hey, just act depressed for 2 episodes? Like, I don't.
Yeah. I was like, man, he's so sad.
Because even in 1 and 2, he's like walking next to Cheese or Willie Jack, and he's just like head down, not saying anything while like something else is going on. And it's like, how does that feel as an actor to just be like, hey, you're not really doing anything else these 2 episodes. You're just kind of in your feelings about, understandably, right? Because Bear's whole thing is that and I kind of actually, I don't know if we actually talked about this when we watched season 1, but at the end of season 1, Alora is going to go to California. Cheese is out.
Willie Jack's out.
Right?
Yeah.
But Bear's like, I'm still in. And I don't know if it's supposed to kind of be up in the air, but like, if Alora had showed up, like, would he have gotten in the car, do you think?
I think he would if he was out there waiting for her.
But wasn't Willie Jack too, and then Alora came and she said no, or did Willie Jack say no before that even?
Willie Jack, Bear, and Cheese both said no when they were all downstairs in that tornado.
Okay. All right. But so Alora never showed up. She took their kind of rival throughout the season 1, Jackie, and so Bear is left sort of waiting, and then that's sort of the cause of his like, or at least the start of his sadness and depression for the first 2 episodes. Yeah, like it's also tough. Like, I don't know, like telling someone like act depressed, but like I think it works, right? Like you understand what he's going through, right? Do you think like it's communicated well, like, or?
Yeah, because I was like definitely wondering how they were gonna sort of like how it was gonna affect the season 2 one, because like it was sort of like I would have thought that Bear would have been much more like out like angry and like because like I feel like Bear as a character can act kind of childish sometimes.
Yeah. So
I thought if he would act more like that. So when he was all like sad, I was like, oh, okay.
I love this scene, just speaking to that, when like, because I think Bear thinks of himself as the leader, right?
Yeah.
But when I forget their names, but the 2 rappers that get their bikes taken.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, your leader, Alora. And then Bear's like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, what happened to your second in command, Willie Jack? And Bear's just like, right, but like someone else is explaining how the dynamics of the group appear from the outside, and like Bear's not at the top of that hierarchy. Yeah. It's so good. I love those 2. I feel like we didn't get enough of those 2 this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, they lost their bikes, right? So they couldn't sort of just be rolling around the way they in the first one. But yeah, so then we get to episode 3, roofing, and you said this is one of the what did you like about this episode, or what kind of?
I just liked I just liked watching Bear get his act together. Not get his act, but like I liked the little moment he had with Daniel's dad.
Yeah.
And it was like, I think that was like the first episode where I was like, oh yes, this is what kind of this reminds me of the episodes from this season.
Yeah. That moment is like brutal when I forget exactly what he says, but right, because he's saying something about how his dad ran out, and then he's like says something to Daniel's dad. It was like, oh, you would know about being a bad dad or whatever. And it's just like, it is devastating. Like, and like everyone in this show is so good, right? There's like 4 men in that scene, like sitting around eating lunch, and like Bear is devastated that he said it. Daniel's dad leaves, and then like the other 2 just kind of have to like go on, right? They just kind of have to like ignore it. And I don't know, like I think I'm just thinking about this, just watching the show today, is like this thing that amazes me so much is how it has never it has never sort of forgotten, or it doesn't let it doesn't let the viewer forget like what all of these characters are dealing with, right? They're like dealing with working on the reservation or living on the reservation, right? Bear's dealing with his dad being gone. They're dealing with their friend being gone, right? It never loses, even when they're having fun, even when other very serious things are going on, like none of it doesn't let you lose track of those things, right? In the way that like I think other shows do, right? Like I think less successful shows kind of can only focus on one thing at a time, and this show is like, oh, it can focus on so many things at once, right? The characters are able to sort of be dealing with all sorts of different emotions in one single scene, and you understand like everything that they're going through. Mm-hmm. That like episode in particular, even just like Bear, I kind of like thematically, right? Like he can't like drive the nail into the roof when he's kind of dealing with the 2 guys who are just like goofing around, right? However, they are talking to him, but then he like it goes and sits and like kind of has it out, not has it out in a bad way, but just like has a real talk with Daniel's dad, right? And we don't know exactly what happened. You know, it sounds like we can vaguely say it sounds like Daniel was depressed. She's says some stuff to that effect later in the episode, but like the dad couldn't figure it out. No one else could figure it out, but like he was sort of able to still have a real talk with that about Bear, and then sort of have this like nice cathartic moment where like, oh, he helps him, right? Bear's at his first job and no one is kind of helping, right? They're like playing pranks on him and whatever. And, you know, he's able to like have this nice moment, right? Because Bear is kind of childish, right? He like can't he's never hit a nail before, right? Not that that's easy, but like just he hasn't had to do that, right? Until that moment, and like needs someone to help him do that. And Daniel's dad is able to. It's really beautiful. And then, I mean, this is kind of be a bigger talk later, but like, right, I think that when they're on the roof, right, they see just like a floating spirit, right? Kind of as the sun is sort of setting, but they sort of see this in front of it. And Bear starts to say something. He's just like, no, right? And then they just kind of, they watch it and it like fades away. And maybe this is a talk, maybe we can say this for the end, but like, how did you feel about how the show dealt with the spirits of elders, of people who have passed on, and how they interact with the people or present themselves to the people who are still here? Because there's a lot of that in this season. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about how it did that, or if you thought it was effective or ineffective? Or
I liked it because I liked that it didn't feel like super like gimmicky or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of just felt like everything just felt like natural, like it made sense, or it wasn't like, I don't know, maybe that's just because it's like indigenous people actually made it. If it was made by like, I don't know, some like white guy, I feel like it probably would have been more like, ooh, spirits. But I feel like the way that it was done in like here and also like the other times it was like happening was like more natural.
Yeah, I think that's a really good word. And I think even that it totally matters that the people who created this are like, hey, these are our spiritual beliefs and these are how we want to represent them on screen, right? It really matters that it's an all indigenous like cast and production, except for White Steve and maybe Kenny Boy. I think that seems up for debate, but I think natural is a really good word, and that like it doesn't, like the show was made the right way, you know? We don't have to sort of sit here and have the conversation about like, oh, did they do a good job? Like, no, these people know what they're talking about, they live it, and this is how they wanted to represent it. That's awesome. Do you want to go to a next character? Or do you want to stay with Bear? Because I feel like Bear kind of we get into it. So Bear, even he has this nice, right, this episode, which is really focused on him. But his other big thing that needs to happen this season is he needs to make up with Allura, right? And after the roofing episode, the next episode we get is Mabel, and Bear has a moment with the does that spirit have a name? The sort of funny I don't know how to refer to him.
The main guy?
The main spirit that shows up.
Isn't it Crazy Horse?
Oh, no, that's not Crazy Horse, is it?
The one like Bear's spirit, right?
The one that he talks to a lot. I'm pulling up a list of characters in IMDb. I don't know if does he have a name? Did you see the picture of the Bears actor on IMDb? It's very dramatic. It's much more dramatic than anyone else's. It's kind of funny.
I'm pretty sure it's, oh wait.
Is that Dallas Goldtooth?
Yeah, I can't read I just see William Spirit.
It just says
William Spirit Knife Man.
Yeah, on IMDb it just says Spirit.
Wait, who's Crazy Horse?
I think he's always talking about he knew Crazy Horse.
Oh.
I think that's his thing, right? He's always talking about how he knew Crazy Horse, but he actually didn't. There's no picture of him on IMDb. Why isn't there a picture?
It's on Google.
So yeah, he's just sort of the main spirit. He shows up to Bear. He shows up to that older Uncle Brownie. I think that's Willie Jack's uncle. But he has a moment with Bear in episode 4 where he's like, Bear's sort of like, I don't know why I'm here, right? He doesn't know why he's kind of upset with Allura. He didn't really know her grandmother, right? He's like, why am I here? And the guy's like, well, you know why you're here. You're here for Allura. And he's like, but does she know that, right? And so Bear's kind of thing in that episode is like, is he able to sort of get past his frustration with Allura and sort of, be there for her in like a moment that's really difficult, right? Because she's kind of lost her family members, right? Her mom passed a while ago. This is her grandma, right? She's kind of on her own in a certain sense now. And he's not really able to in that episode. I thought he was going to follow her out of the house because sort of at the end of the episode, Allura runs out of the house, and I thought he was going to sort of follow her, but he doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. What did you think about Bear's? I mean, maybe it just goes back to him being kind of childish that he holds on to it for so long. But like, what did you think about his sort of like, you need to apologize to me thing that they get to more specifically later?
Yeah, I feel like it was just being childish, or it's just like him. Even if Laura did like apologize the way that he wanted her to, it wouldn't have fixed it. Or, like, he still would have felt bad. And I think that he wasn't like didn't have like the, I don't know, emotional awareness to just be like, you gotta kind of get over it yourself. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think you kind of nailed me to the childish thing, right? Like he had that moment on the roof with Daniel's dad. He had that day. He's like working this. He's, over the course of this season, we don't really go back to the roofing thing, but like we get moments of him. We get the sense that he is continuing to work there, right? He's like earning money. We see him sort of taking his like tool belt off when he comes home. So that's still happening. But like Bear is, he's definitely the one who can't put that behind him and sort of, I don't know if it's like put the rest of the group in front of him in a way that like Willie Jack seems to be able to do, in a way that like, or he's not as emotionally in tune with things as Cheese is. Yeah. I think you kind of nailed it. Because even when he does have it out with Allura a little bit, right? I think that's in the decolon nativization, right? When Willie Jack drops, we'll get to that, but when Willie Jack has their thing with Jackie, I think him and Allura sort of have it out, and he sort of yells at her and is like, I forget what he exactly says to her, right? You kind of betrayed us or whatever. He's really holding on to that for a while until we get to the final couple of episodes. Who do you want to get to? Who do you want to go to next?
Let's do, I guess we should save Allura for the end. So I guess let's do Cheese.
All right. Cheese kind of has, I mean, his big thing is episode,
Towards the end.
Is that episode 7? Yeah, Stay Gold, Cheesy Boy. That's kind of his big, what's going on with Cheese in this season, right?
Yeah.
He has the moment in, I love this. At the end of episode 2 when they're by the river singing, and he says to sing an old song, and oh, what's that song? Now I'm forgetting it. What's the song that he starts singing?
Is it
She's a good girl. What's that song? It's Tom Petty, Free Fall. So it's Willie Jack, it's Cheese, it's Uncle Brownie, and then I forget the name of that other guy, but they're all there. They're trying to sort of lift the curse that Willie Jack put on Jackie at the end of season 1. And the way to do it is they sort of throw some of Jackie things into the river, they pray, and then they have to sing an old song, and Uncle Brownie starts singing Free Falling. And Willie Jack and Cheese are just like super confounded. And I think Cheese at the end is like, that song's not even that old. And he's like, it's 30 years old. That's old. I don't know if anything made me like smile as big as that scene did. It was like just so weird and beautiful, and like they sing like 2 verses and the refrain. Like they sing that song for a while. They don't just like start singing and cut away. They like stay there, and it's so wonderful. And like, I don't know, right? Like the show can hit you in like the feels, and but then it can also like do that, which hits the feels in a different way. I love that so much. That Cheese is there for that. They're able to sort of lift the curse. But yeah, his big episode is 7, where he has been hanging out with his Uncle Charlie, and the cops roll up and take Uncle Charlie away for growing, like, it's like they only show, I think we're supposed to get the impression that it's just those 2 marijuana plants, right? Which is like ridiculous. Like they send a huge SWAT team for a guy growing 2 marijuana plants. Like it's a horrible abuse of like power and resources for something that doesn't matter, because pot is legal in Oklahoma anyways, right? They like go to a store in season 1 at one point. But yeah, so Cheese is sent to a home because they have to sort of work out where he's gonna stay, in terms like who's his guardian is gonna be. So Cheese has an episode all on his own where he's in a boys' home, kind of trying to navigate a weird, the old man is like trying to run them through like Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Like a 12-step program. Is that? Yeah.
With like weird appropriation stuff.
Yeah. Super weird. Yeah. Because it's the old, do you know who that guy is?
His name's Gene.
But the actor, do you know who Mark Maron is? He's a pretty famous podcaster. He's one of the biggest podcasts in the world. So he plays the like runner of the boys' home, and yeah, he keeps talking about how this, I think right when he meets him, he's like, are you indigenous? Are you native? Or does he say Native American even? He's like, they saved my life. Like they're pretty good, right? He's like just talking like a really kind of cringy, broad way that's kind of gross. And she's like, that doesn't have anything to do with me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. What did you think about this one and what we get from Cheese in this one?
I liked it because I like Cheese, and I liked sort of how we got sort of his like side of like Daniel, because I feel like because she's come off as like a very just like easygoing, like jolly, kind character. Yeah. And so it was like nice to see him sort of get more real or like more personal. And I also like that he's always the one that they go to for like saying prayers and stuff. So just think about like the finale. And like I was like, I think that like this and also this like finale when he was doing the prayer was really nice. Yeah, it's Cheese is like this. Yeah, he's like very agreeable, right? He's never sort of the focus of a scene, but he's kind of their most steady person in a way, right? And like you're saying, like they're the one, when they need someone to like say something to speak to the moment or how they're all feeling, right? They go to Cheese, right? They don't go to Willie Jack or Allure or Bear, right? Yeah, right. So we get him looking through his sort of notebook, right? He's like this, we see like, oh, he's always kind of drawing, but we see kind of how good of an artist he actually is. We get, and there's like notes from Alora in there. There's a note from Daniel in there. And then we kind of get him. Oh, I guess before that, he has to clean that bathroom. When you
when he said like you're gonna have to clean the bathroom, I was like, okay, like that sucks, right? Like cleaning the bathroom sucks, but like it's not gonna be the worst. And then it's like it is the grossest toilet situation I've never seen a toilet like that in real life. Like that was horrible. And she's just sort of like gets right to it. It's kind of speaking to his like he's not gonna be the one to like speak out. He's gonna kind of go with it even if it sucks, right? But yeah, we get him sort of talking about, and he says it a couple of times, right? He says like Daniel was his hero, and it's like, oh, I don't know if any of them have spoken so directly about like how they feel about Daniel, right? I think maybe this is the most we get of a character saying like this is what Daniel meant to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he's like he was my hero. He could do anything. He kind of existed, right? You know, I think you see a lot of the same type of person, right? You see the same thing happen to all, or maybe it's more like you see the same thing, right? Happen to all sorts of different types of people, right? They say to a character at the end when they're talking about what's the res, and right, and it's like big dreams and little opportunities, right? So they sort of see that pattern playing out again, but like that wasn't gonna happen to Daniel, right? They all kind of believe that it wouldn't happen to him, and then you know the worst thing possible happens. And even that moment, right, when he's like, you know, some things happened to him, and then I went and like read about it, right? Even, you know, we kind of Cheese is maybe a little bit more intern. I don't know if it's like internal, but he's like a little bit more. He's on a little bit of a different journey than the other ones. Like I don't know, how would you say that? Like when he was like, oh, I went and read about it, like that's, you know, he didn't like, it affected him differently. I don't know. Did that like moment speak out to you when he was sort of having that conversation and talking sort of about what he did after Daniel passed?
Like, what do you mean?
Well, when he's like, I went and read about like what my friend was going through.
Yeah.
You know, that's like not something I imagine like Allura or Willie Jack or Bear going to do. Oh, right. And it kind of, I don't know, Cheese, I don't know if it's like he processes things differently or his, you know, his brain just works different. I don't know, but like he's something very unique from the other, like from the three of them, right? He's like a little bit of a unicorn within the group.
Yeah.
He kind of has that conversation with the kid who has a bunch of, I guess he's not a kid, he's probably almost 21. I think you age out when you're 21, who has a bunch of kids, right? But I don't know, did you, any of the characters inside of the group home where you were like, did you hate him? Did you love him? I don't know.
I didn't mind him. I thought that one guy was kind of funny, just of how he's like, no man, I'm asking because I want to like, I'm asking you for like job hiring. It's not because I'm making fun of you, because I want to like provide for my kids or whatever. I thought it was just so random, but I liked it.
I think it would have been so easy for the show to just make that character, and I'm forgetting his name, to just make him like totally hateful, right? Because I think the first time we see him is when Cheese has cleaned the whole bathroom and then he misses everywhere, right? That's him. To just kind of make him hateful and awful, but like he has a bit of depth that like people can't see because he's mean, right? He's the person beating up on one of the other kids. I don't know if we ever figure out exactly who he's beating up on. And I think it gets, the show has like so much empathy for all of the characters. No one is just like one thing. No one is just like bad or good or nice or whatever, right? Like everyone, even these characters that we see for one episode, is just like they have so much going on, and the show understands that and is able to like put that on screen, even if it's just for like a few moments. He's good. That episode they have at the picnic table at the end of that one is like really, really nice. When is that the scene when he's like, Cheese tells him his pronouns and then he's like, oh, so you're gay, because he's not used to that. And he's like, no, gender identity and sexuality are two different things. And the kid it goes right over his head. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's kind of it until we get to the end. Again, we'll talk about that with Cheese. Let's do Willie Jack next. We'll save sort of Allura for last, and then we'll wrap up how this season ends. The first couple of episodes, Willie Jack is focused on breaking the curse. We talked about the episode at the end of episode 2 when they're singing. But her other big thing happens a little bit later in the season, right? So we have the moment with her and Jackie at the end of episode 6, decolonization. Talk a little bit about because I think at one point in the season you texted me, you're like, we need more Willie Jack.
Yeah.
And I think we get it. So talk to me about like what you thought about her and sort of the journey she went on this season.
I think, well, so when like she's like crosses the line with Jackie and everything, I thought it was handled really well. Cause like it wasn't like I liked that like Willie Jack was like immediately like, oh shoot, that was wrong of me, and like went to go like apologize. Which just makes me like think that Willie Jack it just reinforces my Willie Jack appreciation. It's like, yes, be funny and also be a nice person even though you make mistakes. So I liked yeah.
She's not as like, she kind of takes the sort of fight that they had with the other gang kind of personally in the same way like that Bear does, but she doesn't seem to hold on to that as strong, right? As soon as it's like, yo, you said something about her brother and her brother's died, Willie Jack is like, oh, like I definitely crossed a line, and it's like, it's my bad, right? It's not, Jackie doesn't have to do anything to make up. Right now I'm in the bad and like I have to make it right. It's not that episode, right? When she tells Jackie she can hit her in the face or the stomach, right? Is that a later episode?
I don't remember.
Oh, there's a moment when it's kind of her trying to like make up, right? Because at the end of that episode, Jackie hasn't forgiven her either, right? I think Willie Jack walks out, she sees her and she's like, Jackie, she's like, I'm sorry, I didn't know, like that's horrible. I had a friend who died too. And Jackie just kind of looks at her, starts walking away and says, watch your back, right? And the next time those two meet, Willie Jack goes up to Jackie and is like, you can hit me in the face if you want. And then Jackie kind of fakes like she will, and she doesn't actually, but right, it's sort of that, it's Willie Jack being like, I'm still in the wrong, I still need to make up for it, right? I think Willie Jack, I don't know, she kind of has a tough exterior thing, or just like this thing where she doesn't seem, I don't know, how would you describe her? Like,
I feel like she comes off very like tomboyish and stuff, but then also like even from like season 1 when there's like that episode with her and her dad, and like you can tell that like family is super important to her and the friends are super important to her, and like so I feel like it's like you'd expect her to be one way, but like she's like not.
Yeah, I think, and I think this kind of even happens at the end of episode 9, right? I think she has a depth, an emotional depth that people really don't expect from her. And not even that she's just like thinks about things, but like she's thinking about others a lot in a way that like they don't expect, right? Kind of when she asks them to have all come over for dinner, right? Or even when she goes to see, is that Daniel's sister that she goes to see in jail? I think
it's Daniel's mom.
Daniel's mom. Okay. She didn't expect to see Willie Jack, right? She didn't, to have this person come to her and try to have a really honest conversation or about like what's going on with her and each other and between them since her son passed. So yeah, like I don't know. I was so blown away. Like, I don't know if I've ever, even when I did have like a big group of friends in high school, like I don't think I ever thought about like what is the like emotional state of our group and what can I do to like make it better? Like that, it's kind of amazing, right? It doesn't feel weird or forced, right? It feels totally natural. But like Willie Jack is like, she knows that her friends aren't doing well, right? And she's kind of like, what can I do about it, right? It's like, it's really beautiful that like, and she's still doing it in her like, she has her like tie-dye socks and her slides, and she doesn't actually say that many words, right? She doesn't, but I don't know, she like gets, I don't know. Is she your favorite character? Is it Willie Jack?
Yeah,
I think for me too. I think that episode kind of nailed it, right? The way she's able to sort of be quiet and a little bit underspoken, but still like super deep and in touch with like what's going on with the people that she really cares about. It's that kind of blew me away. And then so Willie Jack, I think that's episode 9, right? But they all get like letters, or a couple of them get letters that they wrote to themselves when they were freshmen, because now they're seniors in high school, which I guess maybe we'll talk about that when we talk about like, season 3, because I think that I didn't quite know that they were that old. I guess I thought they were maybe more like sophomores, juniors, but I guess they're all seniors. Is that what?
I don't know, because like it was only It was only Bear and Willie Jack that were in class.
Oh, maybe but Alora and Daniel and Bear and Willie Jack were all, because Alora was throwing like little pieces of paper at Daniel. So Alora wrote that letter, but we don't see her.
Yeah, did they like drop out or something?
I don't know, because they definitely showed Alora at like work, right? They show her working at like the gas station or the convenience store. So I don't know if maybe she is sort of dropped out of school a little bit. But yeah, so I guess we'll pick it up with Alora here. She kind of goes through the most maybe this season, starting with Mabel, which is the episode where her grandma is passing, and so the town sort of comes together to say goodbye in their traditional way to her grandma, and everyone's sort of in the house, and you're getting all these interactions. What did you think about this one? Because it's the one of the ones you mentioned that you really liked.
Sorry, I was looking at a Reddit post trying to figure out if Alora and Cheese dropped out of school.
Oh, did you find it? Did it say anything?
No, I just got this history teacher that was like, what's a school appropriate episode I can show my class one day? I'm just looking to kill some time.
What? What? They're saying that they don't want it. So there's a history teacher on Reddit.
I'm a middle school history teacher, and I need to fill a day with a 45-minute video. A TV show would be ideal for timing, and I'd love to show my students a snippet of modern day life. I know this show isn't school appropriate as a whole, but I haven't watched the whole thing. I don't know if any episode get away joined. And someone else is like, why don't you just contact your local tribe and have them do a presentation?
Yeah, really. This person is they're like, heart
What's
is maybe
the least I can do
in the right place, but they are not willing to do any work.
Anyways, they recommended the one where Cheese rides along with Big from season 1, just in case you're wondering.
I don't remember the episodes from season 1, but is a good one, I think, because you get a little bit of like the interaction between Big as a tribal, right? He's a tribal cop. He works just for the tribe, and the other cops in the town who make fun of him. And that's the episode with the deer lady, right? Big sees the deer lady too.
Yeah,
I think the deer ladies, but no, that person should not. I mean, it's a good show, but do some more work, please.
Yeah, but Alora did drop out.
Okay, and then. Did it say anything about Cheese? Is he maybe a year behind them?
I think Cheese was the youngest one.
Oh, okay.
So he could be a year.
So that might set up some interesting things for the next season. But yeah, so Mabel, Alora's grandmother passes, the town comes together. We sort of see, right? We've seen all of these people, right? We've seen Clem and Leo where they get the catfish. We've seen, I think it's Auntie B who does the traditional beating, right? She's is involved in a couple episodes in season 1. Bear's mom and Bev, who is the like sort of receptionist that gives everyone a hard time at IHS. Yeah, and they're all sort of together, and Jackie's there because Jackie is Bev's niece. But yeah, what did you think of episode 4?
I liked it. I liked seeing everyone sort of come together. And also when Alora's aunt came, I was like, that was because like I didn't know that she had an aunt.
Yeah.
And I had lots of questions because for a second I was like, oh, is the aunt gonna invite Alora to come back to like New York with her or something?
Mm-hmm.
For like, because like Alora's like seems like the main one who really wants to like get out.
And the aunt is like, it kind of does a little bit of not like plot setting, but it's sort of setting up the struggle they're going to face at the end of this season or at the beginning of next season, right? Because the aunt left, right? And then this has got into more in the next episode, Wide Net, with when the aunties are sitting around, they're like, you're the one who left, right? Like you left, you didn't have kids, you're not living on the reservation, and right, like not that like you don't have your own struggles and hardships, but like you can't really, we don't live the same life, right? Like the reason that we need this weekend off to sort of let loose and have some fun is different than the reason you do. And they're not trying to be mean, right? But it's like really honest. And I think they're trying to say, hey, we're like a little hurt, right? Like, you know, and I think we'll kind of get into this when we're talking about the ending, right? Like characters sort of understand even that like people don't want to stay here, right? They want Daniel to get out, right? But like, even if Daniel had left and the rest had stayed, like that would have hurt, right? As much as they know was probably the right thing to do, it doesn't feel good to see those people that you love like feel like they have to go and they kind of the like Bear's mom and Bev and all of them have that conversation with each other in episode 5, but where we get a little bit of that sort of starting, like she wasn't here, right? She was there when Allura was born, but she wasn't here to watch Allura grow up, right? She didn't stay to help after Allura's mom died, right? And so we're starting to get some of that in episode 4. What did you think about like everyone? I mean, it's not like a ton, but there's like a bit of it, like, you know, with all the folks trying to like hook up with each other in episode 4. I think there's Big makes like a pass at Allura's aunt a little bit when they're in the backyard. There's that woman, I think it's the woman who does the beadwork. I think it's Auntie B, but I'm not sure. But she asks Clem or Leo, one of them, to like, if she wants to come back to her house for like cake or whatever. And he's like, no, I'm good. And she just rolls her eyes at him, takes a second and like gets it. But I don't know. It's a sad episode, right? They're dealing with the passing of someone that like, well, I guess actually like, the Mabel wasn't like super well liked in the community, right? Like she was important and they respect her because she's an elder, right? But she seemed to like be very isolated from everyone else. Is that kind of the sense that you got?
Yeah, like after he died, she became pretty like...
Yeah, but like, right, even a person who, right, maybe didn't interact with everyone, wasn't on the best terms, right? Everyone still shows up, right? Like that, the fact that she is part of that community still matters, and like she is still treated with respect and dignity, and you know, and they like can get together, and it's, you know, I guess like their life is still happening, right? All of the dynamics between the family members or the people in the town, right? And it can be funny and sad, and like it can all be on screen in like, you know, 28 minutes or whatever. It's kind of amazing because, yeah, this whole episode just happens inside of this one house, right, over the course of one night. It's really, really beautiful. So then we sort of get Allura's grandma passes at the end, and then that is sort of, that just doesn't, like, again, kind of going in, like the show doesn't forget that Allura is dealing with that for the rest of the episode, right? It comes up with her, it comes up with her friends. Like that is kind of what she is dealing with throughout the rest of this, right? We see her, like you said, I guess, so she dropped out of school. We see her working, right? She now has to take care of this house because it's passed to her, and she still wants to go to California. And so maybe in the other like funniest scene, they break into Kenny Boy's salvage yard to steal back the car, and they're trying to find the keys, and Kenny Boy sort of finds them, and they're like thinking he's gonna like turn them in or sort of like run them out. They're not gonna be able to get the car back, and because he had this earlier episode with Big where they kind of trip balls on like ayahuasca and MDMT, he's just like, it's been a weird couple of days, and lets them go. It's very good. But then they're off to California, and they get there, and they're eating inside of a restaurant, and their car gets stolen, and they sort of don't know what to do. And they figured out that sort of the thing that Daniel wanted to do is he wanted to go see the ocean, right? Because he specifically, it seems like he had a big crush on Allura, and so he wanted to, in that letter that Willie Jack got, which they read at the end of episode 9, he said he wants to see like what would Allura think when or how would she react when she saw the ocean. And so they're like, we gotta get to the ocean. And it sounds ridiculous to say, but a man, they're in LA, and a man who is dressed like Jesus, and I don't know if he thinks he's Jesus or not. Is that the sense you got, or do they just call him White Jesus?
I think they just call him White Jesus.
He leads them to like where he lives, because he sort of lives in a homeless encampment set up on the streets, and then they stay there for the night before being sort of run off by the cops, and then walk the rest of the way to the ocean. Yeah, and so they're there, and I don't know, talk to me, what did you think about the ending when they're like standing there? Allura's like scared to go in, and Bear says to her, right, we're not here to forget about Daniel. We're not here to move past what happened to him, but we can't, the pain that we feel, right, if that's guilt, if it's anger because they don't understand or just because they miss their friend, right? That's holding them all in place, right? And Alora's like, it's not about forgetting him, but it's about taking his memory with them without all of the anger, all of the things that held them back, and the resentment or the regret or whatever. And then, yeah, I don't know. What was your reaction to the ending when they're all sort of, Cheese is praying and they're sort of dancing around in the water? What did you think of that?
It was nice. I really liked Cheese's prayer.
I love how he like weaves in the little like,
Yeah.
There was like something from Star Wars in one of them. There was he weaves in like the pop cultures, but it's like just the,
and
like,
then he got so real at the end, and I was like, yes. I like that. There was a couple things. One was not expecting Bear to be the one that was like, I'm not going back.
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves me very interested to see what's gonna happen, because it's like Willie Jack's gonna go back for sure.
Yeah.
She's just gonna go back for sure. I don't know what Alora's gonna do, because she's got like a whole ass like house back there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really interesting, because I feel like that came out of nowhere. Because like up until that point, I was just like who do I think the main character of the show is? Like, they're obviously all four of them like main character. Like I was like, because like I always thought Alora was like the main person. Like she's the one that gets explored like most, at least towards the end.
I think maybe, I don't know, the Cheese is maybe the one that maybe gives me pause for this, but I was like, I feel like Bear was kind of the focus of season 1.
Yeah.
Alora's kind of the focus of this season. I think you could probably do a season that focused on Willie Jack. Mm-hmm. Cheese might be a little bit tough. I don't know if they're doing that. Maybe, I don't know. But you're sort of thinking like, you're thinking about like what happens next in terms of, they seem to be at a crossroads in terms of what each of them wants.
Yeah, and it's like, so, because like it feels like they're inevitably gonna like go their separate ways. So then it's like, how is season 3 is it just gonna be like different cutscenes of them wherever they are? Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what's gonna happen though. I'm definitely more looking forward to this season than I am looking forward to the next Umbrella Academy season. For
sure. I think we'd seen Willie Jack talking to Daniel's picture. We'd see Daniel, right? Because there's a scene of him at school, but like when it sort of, they're like dancing around in the surf, and then it's sort of like the reverse shot cut, and then he's in the circle with them, and it's just like he's there, and they're he's just there with them, right? That's it. He's just there with, like, their friend is back there with him, and then it cuts again and he's gone. Like, I was not emotionally ready to see that. I didn't start crying, but I did get a little like moist. Like, it was, again, kind of going back to when Bear and Daniel's father saw his spirit in like episode 3. Like, this show, it never, and again, like so many, if it's Brownie talking to the sort of funnier spirit, or Daniel's mom in prison talking to that woman who I don't know if we ever exactly figure out who she is, or when her and Willie Jack are praying, right, and all the ancestors show up behind Willie Jack, right? The show never like, I'm not going to say treats it like that's fake, but like that, even if those people aren't physically there, like they are in that scene, like they are the characters. They are real to the character in that scene, in that moment, right? And it again, I think you nailed it when it said like it's natural. Like their friend was just there again with them in that moment, right? For a moment, he was back there with them as they were sort of like fulfilling the dream that he wasn't able to do. And yeah, it was super. It was so beautiful. I don't know. I loved it. Oh yeah, I guess I wasn't ready to see that, and like I didn't know I wasn't ready to see that, but it was really nice. And like I think they're all good with each other at the end, right? Like we have this sort of what's going to happen, right? But like I think Bear and Alora, right? I think that's kind of their moment of making up was on the beach right there, because she follows right in after him, right? They kind of have this very honest moment about why they're doing this, and she follows in right after him, and like kind of a moment of trust maybe. And yeah, so it ends them, and then they're like, we're going to go get the car. And Bear's like, I'm not leaving. And then they start walking down the beach and they're following after him. And then it cuts to the credits. And yeah, we don't know what is going to happen. Do you have anything you want, like you feel like you want to happen or you feel like should happen? Or are you just like, they make a pretty good TV show, let them figure it out?
Yeah, I think they'll figure it. I do wonder if they're going to go more into like Bear and his dad, especially if he ends up staying there, because doesn't his dad live out there? I mean, like, but also more Willie Jack, always more Willie Jack.
So one thing is Willie Jack mentions that she has an uncle on a res nearby in Southern California somewhere, presumably. So they could go there. There's Bear's dad. This season, the characters were a little bit more split up than they were last season. So even if like maybe Bear and Alora stayed and then Cheese and Willie Jack went back, I could totally see that being good too. I don't know. Would you be upset if they was a slightly more permanent split?
No.
I think that could work, but yeah, we'll have to see. Hopefully, it's just a year, right? They did a year, between season 1 and season 2 is just 1 year. So hopefully they're able to turn this around like equally as quick again. Cause this is probably the thing when I think about like TV shows I want to come back, like I'm kind of bummed I wasn't watching it week to week and like having it build. Like it was nice sort of seeing some of the through lines, watching it all at once. But like, yeah, I'm super pumped for this to come back. It was so good. So good. Any final thoughts?
No.
No. I don't know. I guess I had one thing I liked is when they were talking to, well, I don't know. This is maybe a whole other conversation, but I like kind of what they did a little bit with like Kenny Boy, with White Steve, and even when they're talking to the waitress at the end of episode 10 when they're in episode 10 when they're at that restaurant and they're sort of talking about like what the reservation, they ask, because right to them they're just like from the res, right? But no one knows where or what that means exactly, but then they sort of describe it and she's, it's like sounds similar to sort of what she's going through, right? I think they say like big dreams, not a lot of opportunity, hard to get out. But then even the way sort of they treat, right, like White Steve is a little bit of a punching bag, but he's not like, he's still part of their group, right? He's part of their friends, he's part of their community, even though he isn't an indigenous character, right? And so like I think the show is doing something like a little bit interesting with class and kind of how if you're there on the res with them, like on the res living that experience, right? Like it might be different if you're white and you're not indigenous, but you're still a part of you're still an important part of what is going on there. And you're still valuable to that community, right? In the way that Steve is just a part of their friend group and the way Big and Kenny Boy, like Big is like, you can call me brother when no one else is around, right? It's like, it's a little bit different, but like he still values that like they went through that thing together. And it's, I don't know. I don't know. I think this show like deals with so many things. So just really like, well, like it's quick and it's not like the main focus, but like there is thought and consideration in it. And it's dealt with like really beautifully and kind of deftly. And we didn't even go into everything in like decolonization, right? Like the sort of conversation that happens at the end of that episode when they're like, but what does it mean to decolonize, right? And the influencers, they don't have any answers, right? They're just kind of, Bear and Cheese are just kind of like, that's bullshit what you're saying, right? Like, I don't know. I think the show deals with a lot of that, the sort of political and like cultural stuff going on around them in a really like interesting and thoughtful way that like we didn't totally get into here, but like it is thinking about all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. All right, do we want to take a short break and we'll go do our one shots? Sound good? All right, we'll be back after this short break. All right, and we are back with our one shots for this week. Ansel, do you have a one shot, or do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. Mine's gonna be pretty short. Just in like the last week, I don't even know why it came up. and it came up on my YouTube algorithm, and I don't know why. And now I've gone down a rabbit hole. But have you ever seen like YouTube videos about like people who have like collect things, like anything?
What?
Has any of that? No. I got recommended a YouTube video about a guy who collects retro video games, like old video games, like original Nintendo stuff, like old PlayStation, Xbox, and I've been watching a lot of that over the last week. I think part of it is because most of his episodes, he has like two different types of episodes. One of the types of episodes is him like going to like a convention or a game store and like buying expensive old video games. But those are fun and fine. But the more interesting stuff is he like goes to like Goodwills or flea markets or storage container auctions or like, I don't know, just like random places, and is hunting for like old video games to sell. And so like every week he hits up the Goodwills and the flea markets and all the stuff in his area, and sort of just like him wandering through them seeing all the like, to me a lot of it is like junk, right? A lot of like old stuff that I am not interested in, but like wandering through that stuff and like, you know, kind of then he finds, you know, like this one video game he's been looking for and hasn't been able to find or whatever. Just because like, I don't know, I like going to like Goodwills and going into that type of stuff and just wandering around and seeing like what type of stuff people have accumulated. I find that kind of interesting. But so I've been watching a lot of that on YouTube. And it makes me kind of want to start maybe not collecting video games, but I'm like, could I collect something? And I'm like, that's a whole rabbit hole I don't need to go down. Like,
collect and then do what with it?
Well, that's the thing. Because then his other episodes are just like, he'll like go through his stuff, and then that's the kind of thing that like sobers me up. And it's like, well, he just has all that stuff in his house, right? Because he doesn't play the games, right? That's the thing. Like, that's the sort of wild thing about people who do that collecting specifically, is like they don't play all those games. The games just sit on the shelf, right? And some of them, like, if you don't have the right type of TV, you can't even play that stuff anymore, right? Like, so it's kind of like, I don't want to say useless, because like if it's important to someone, then it's important to them. But it is kind of just stuff in the place that you live at the end of the day. And it's like, I don't need more stuff. It's cool. It's cool that you do it, and I like watching it, but I don't need to do that. I guess I'm saying I'm living vicariously through these YouTube videos. But yeah. All right. What is your one more thing?
So last time we talked, I was really into that podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out that, so Brittany Broski, her real name is not actually Brittany Broski. It's like Brittany, whatever, normal last name. Which is fine. Wasn't disappointed at all. Don't hold it against her. But she has like a YouTube channel, and I found it, and like she's very funny. I think the reason why I'm enjoying her YouTube videos so much is because the friend that recommended her to me, her humor is very similar. So it's like I'm like immediately on board. Just been like watching her. They're very fun.
What is the name of her YouTube video?
It's just Brittany
channel?
Broski, if you just look up like Brittany.
So that's sort of her online persona, is Brittany Broski. Okay. And what type of, you said her last YouTube video was about like viral games. What's her
that
kind
was
of,
her last
what is she kind of?
podcast.
Oh, that was the last podcast. What kind of stuff is on the YouTube channel?
Just like books. Like one, she's going to Disney World with some friend who's never gone before. It's really funny. And also like one, she's like making like full English breakfast, and it's just like she's just somebody who's like very much like online, and like I get all of the references to her jokes, and she's like just like silly and dumb, and I really like it.
Okay. All right. She's not too like it's not like super like influencer, like look at how great my life is.
No, it's just like her being really silly.
Okay, cool. I can get on board with that. Cool. So that's Brittany Broski's YouTube channel. I think that is going to bring us to the end of the podcasts. So thank you everyone for listening to another episode of the Comically Podcast. You can follow Angela on Goodreads by searching Angela Glowacki. You can follow her on Letterboxd by searching congli, that's CONGLI, or on Twitter by searching @congli was taken, that's CONGLI was taken. You can follow me on Twitter by searching at Joey Glowacki. That's at JoeyGlowacky. Please rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your preferred podcast listening app. All reviews are greatly appreciated and help our show grow. You can also get in touch with us via email by sending your feedback or questions to podcast@comicsly.com, or you can listen and give a thumbs up to episodes of the show on our YouTube channel. That's the Comicsly YouTube channel. You can find that by searching Comicsly when you're on YouTube. We have episodes of our podcast. We also have past streams from our Twitch channel along with other great videos. The music you heard in this episode is the song Don't Ever Forget by Mecha Imperfect. You can find their music on Bandcamp and YouTube. Thanks everyone for listening. See you next week. Bye. I'm definitely gonna listen to Free Fallin' after this.
Stupid.
That was so good. I did it's one of those songs like when he started singing, I was like, I recognize that song. I don't know it, but I recognize it. And then don't they start singing it at the end and they don't know the words? Like they don't know that song that well, I think.
They're like, do that song again, but then they can't think of the words.
That's awesome. That is awesome.